Third down and 20.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast, episode 42. I'm joined by Lounis, Jake, and Frank, the one and only Frank. I think, while there's not a whole lot going on right now, we're kind of in the dead of summer where, all you're getting is like media hype and coach speak. The only real news that we have is there's a couple of arrests that don't really affect Dynasty. And then the Steelers just cut right before we're taping this. David Decastro. So Frank, how much does this really affect the Steelers? I knew he was hurt and it was going to be issues anyway. Is this really hurting the offensive line at all?
Yeah, it is. It really sucks because he's just been a staple of this offensive line group for a while. But I don't think it's going to have an incredibly drastic impact just because last season the left guard spot was already a problem spot. I know Decastro played right guard, but our interior offensive line, guard, center, other guard has always just been kind of crap the past 2 years. So I don't really think losing an injured David Decastro, a guy that probably wouldn't have been able to play a whole lot this year, I think that's clearly what they thought is going to make a huge impact.
Yeah, apparently he was still currently dealing with his ankle issue, just as recently as the past few weeks of camp. And I heard from another thing that it's not confirmed yet, but he's considering retirement.
Yeah, it sucks. It kind of just sucks all around. He was a great player. But I don't know. It does really suck, but at the end of the day, the reason the Steelers' offensive line was and probably is still bad is not going to change too much. I think that you're going to get a pretty similar level of play out of that group, and I think that the Steelers organization kind of saw this coming for a while to a certain extent.
All right. Good insight. I personally do think he is going to retire. I don't know. I don't think he has much more to gain from it. But I kind of just alluded to it. We're in the dead of football right now. Nothing's really going on. So what does that mean? Writers need to come up with their own little quips and whatnot. Yeah, their hot takes. Coaches need to make up stuff about underperforming players. So I wanted to ask you guys real quick. Did you have any favorite coachisms or media speak that you've noticed recently? Because I have a couple in mind.
Is this just recently? Because I could start going down the list of Tomlinisms.
No, not Tomlinisms, but think more like what coaches are currently talking about, players currently. So yeah, I guess recently would be what we're looking for.
Every single Ravens wide receiver looks like the best wide receiver of all time, apparently.
That's true. Even Sammy Watkins now. I literally watched tape of Sammy Watkins at Ravens practices, and he looked terrible. I don't know where they're coming up with this. Sammy Watkins' agent, maybe.
Yeah, and then I love everyone's overreactions to two practices in a row. The one where he threw a bunch of picks, and the next one he's he threw 5 touchdowns, and it's everyone's going crazy for each one. I'm just okay.
Yeah, I also don't understand how people can hype up a running back in training camp. I've never understood that. How, I feel like running back.
He looks really good running against those, cones.
Yeah, it's
cones.
Look at how he didn't hit the pad that he was supposed to step over. Oh man, that's great. Okay. For the most part, that is the one position that you really can't judge when a guy doesn't have pads on. It's how the hell are you supposed to tell if that's I don't know.
I think
I guess you can see some things, but
I feel like the only thing you can really see is how they are as a receiver. If their route running's good. I feel like that's the only thing you can really tell from a running back before all the pads are on.
I have a couple I want to get off my chest real quick too, and then we can move on to we're breaking down the AFC East for everyone. My one that I tweeted about from the 3rd and 20 Twitter account, follow us on Twitter. We tweet out some fun stuff. There's been a lot of different players that are poised for a breakout, according to either coaches or media and whatnot. And I've learned that poised for a breakout just means this guy didn't play well last year, or it's been 2 years now. Like, think like Russell Gage or Olamide Zaccheaus, like on the
whoa!
Falcons.
Let's chill out over here, because these are two guys that did play well. I don't want to hear it.
No, they're Jags. They're Jags.
You're a
think,
Jag.
think N'Keal Harry. Think JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Like, these are players.
And lawn chair? Is he getting hype again?
Beach chair.
I did see hype. Like, oh, he's going to be in the role that fits him best now. Like, you're just saying the guy is poised for a breakout because they literally have done nothing or have been lackluster in their first couple of seasons. And now because that the depth chart is like muddy and there's no real good players surrounding them, like, sure, they might see the field. If seeing the field is poised for a breakout, sure. Then my other thing that I've been getting to is there's a lot of Elijah Moore hype, and maybe rightfully so, but like Frank was kind of saying with the running backs on, like, they're getting hit by pads and they're going through cones. Like, oh, and Devontae Smith too. Elijah Moore and Devontae Smith. Like, these guys are going up against like second team defenses. The Jets on their own, like, they've got Marcus May, but then who else is their secondary anyway? Like, so if Elijah Moore is torching the Jets defense, what does that really mean anyway? It's just like it's crazy how much hype grows. And for people that have rookie drafts right now, this is where we start to see the Darwin Thompson
Very
effect.
dangerous territory.
It's the Darwin Thompson effect. You're gonna start
dangerous territory.
Now, Elijah Moore is someone that I've liked before. So it's not gonna really change my opinion that much. But like, we're gonna start seeing Michael Carter. The Jets had a whole hype video about them getting to draft Michael Carter. Like, I could see him flying up boards now. It's
Michael
ridiculous.
Carter's already flown up boards.
He's an early second
he has,
now.
but
He's
he
an early
has.
second.
If he starts getting picked in the first, that's just insane to me. It's
I
insane.
know
I
right
wouldn't
now.
be
he's in the
surprised to
early
start
second.
seeing him go 111, 112 and
111, 112,
yeah.
for a team that needs a running back.
That's already happening with Sermon. Sermon's already
I
going
know.
late
Well,
first.
Sermon I like.
drafts.
I wouldn't take him in the first in Superflex, but I do like Sermon. What were you gonna say, Frank?
So we are getting, though, to my favorite part of camp hype, and it should be everyone's favorite part, where it is player X has been working out season. I remember this was big with Dwayne Haskins last year. Like, oh, dude, Dwayne Haskins gained like 10 pounds
Jacked.
of muscle. Like, he's been working out. Like, you're not supposed to be working out as a professional athlete. I'll stop. Let's get into the breakdown.
I think
I've
I've only seen that like actually end up working out once in like the past like 5-6 years, and it was with Ronald Jones. That's the only time I've seen that like actually have an impact.
He's been working out.
And I see it with like 40 players every year.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope he's in shape.
I think it should be more of a headline if he's not working out, because then you just know he's bound to be Dwayne Haskins.
I can't imagine Ben Roethlisberger really like is grinding out there. Like, he's earned it at this
Ben,
point.
dude.
Roethlisberger's just, like eating and taking naps.
The large Benjamin.
All right, let's get into speaking of quarterbacks though. Let's get into the AFC East breakdown. As Jake mentioned to us earlier before the podcast, that's the Patriots, Jets, Bills, and Dolphins, in case you guys didn't know. So we've got Patriots, Mac Jones, quarterback 20 according to Keep Trade Cut. Cam Newton, quarterback 33. Jarrett Stidham, not ranked. I kind of just threw him on here for fun. Josh Allen, quarterback 2. Mitch Trubisky, quarterback 46. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback 16. Jacoby Brissett, quarterback 50. Zach Wilson, quarterback 13. And James Morgan, not ranked. Jets backup.
That's their backup.
Yeah. So looking across the board, there's a lot of like split decisions on here. I think the one that we're all in agreement though, and almost across the board as most underrated, is Mac Jones at quarterback 20. Frank, you're the guy who's been being the drum to the Mac Jones train. Can you explain why he's ranked so low and why he should be ranked higher?
I think this is going to be a common theme with my takes with the Patriots. So this isn't just for Mac Jones, but this is an offense that I think is a lot better than people realize, right? Because I think a lot of the argument against Mac Jones is, oh, he's in the worst situation. This offense sucks. This offense averaged more yards on the ground than the Browns last year, which I don't think many people really realize. And then they added
that's just because Cam Newton couldn't throw the ball more than like 15 yards.
Well, their running backs also had good production, and this is an offensive line that is probably top 10 in the league still. And now you add in 2 starting, like good starting level tight ends. You bring in a couple free agent wide receivers, and all of a sudden, this is an offense that, with a good offensive coordinator, has a completely new identity, at least in my opinion. And Mac Jones, you're getting at a bottom half of the league quarterback price in Dynasty, where age is all the rave nowadays, and rightfully so. If you look at startup draft data, generally speaking, if you draft younger, you have a lot more success and upside. But for some reason, that doesn't apply to Mac Jones and this Patriots football team, where they do not have any player outside of the tight end position ranked in the top half of their position. I don't agree with that. I think this is an offense that's actually going to produce, even if they produce at an average level, literally middle of the park, you have gained value due to the arbitrage that you bought every single one of these guys for the price that you were paying for the offense they had last year. So I think Mac Jones, I had him as like a top 4 quarterback coming into this season. Nothing has changed since then. I think he went into a great system. So I'm expecting Mac Jones to be pretty good in general. And even this year, I think that he's going to start a little bit earlier than people realize and start producing earlier than expected.
I do think Mac Jones also, kind of loses credit from dynasty players, because they look at the recent quarterbacks Patriots have drafted, and they think to themselves well, they've never other than Tom Brady, they've never really produced a solid quarterback. I guess maybe Jimmy G, but what you gotta look at is they were drafting quarterbacks in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. They haven't drafted a top 15 quarterback like they just did with Mac Jones. So, it's unlikely. It's against all odds that the likes of Ryan Mallett is going to work out, or Jarrett Stidham for that matter.
Oh my God. I remember Ryan Mallett was supposed to be the Brady successor.
Yeah. So it's against all odds that something like that is going to happen. So this is the first real, other than Tom Brady, the first real, chance they have to develop a quarterback. So we'll see what's going to happen. I think to kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate, the issue with Mac Jones for a lot of people is he's not going to get you those rushing yards. So he's going to have to be a very good passer to be a top 15 upside kind of guy, a high QB2 kind of guy. So why am I going to rank him higher? To that, I'd argue, and we had his mom, I think, allegedly comment on one of our posts on YouTube, but Jalen Hurts, I think, would you rather have 2 years of very high upside Jalen Hurts, but that might, crash and burn, or would you rather have 5 years of Mac Jones? Now, neither is a guarantee. Jalen Hurts could be a franchise quarterback. Mac Jones could be a bust. But I just think if you're looking at the ceiling and floor kind of thing, it's what you're more comfortable doing as a dynasty owner. Are you going to swing for the high upside, or are you going with what you feel more comfortable with? And it's just something that everyone has a different philosophy on.
Well, that's also priced in, though.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that's where he is. The
last point before we move on to Mac Jones is that I think that this year in rookie drafts, he's one of the best priced players that you can get. I really don't think that you're going to get a quarterback of his upside for much cheaper than a late first rookie pick in a lot of leagues. I've even seen leagues where he sneaks into the second. Now, that's not going to happen in most drafts, but if it does, man, that is great value for a guy who hasn't played and does check a lot of the boxes that you like to see. Good passer. He comes from a school with good pedigree. He has the draft capital, and he's in a good situation.
Yeah, exactly. My one other thing that I want to say on the Patriots before we move on is is this Cam Newton's last year? Can Cam start anywhere else, or are we just putting him on the shelf?
No, if I had him, I'd sell him.
I mean, from a dynasty perspective, yeah, if you can sell him for a second round pick, I would. But in terms of actual NFL playing time, I think you could see Cam, go somewhere and be a bridge quarterback for someone next year. I don't think it'll be New England. I think that will be Mac Jones' job moving forward after this year. But I could definitely see, Cam filling in for a year here and there, kind of like he did in New England for the past 2 years, or last year and presumably the first half of this year.
So essentially, the next like Tyrod Taylor, Ryan Fitzpatrick is what we're calling Cam.
It's tricky with Cam because it's like, are we getting pre-COVID Cam? Because that Cam can start for, like Jake mentioned, as a bridge QB somewhere, or are we getting how he looked after he caught it, or is it like going to be somewhere in between? I'll like give him a break for his play after, because like that's affected a ton of athletes. So it's tough to predict how he's going to be next year.
All right, moving on to the Bills. Mitch Trubisky was the backup to Owen for Frank and Jake. And then Josh Allen was also who we felt most confident would keep their value, even so high as quarterback 2, for myself, Jake, and Lounis. So
he'll stay at QB3, maybe just one drop.
Under Kyler. Well, according to Lounis, Kyler will be 1, Mahomes will be 2, and Josh Allen will be 3. I don't really have like. It is kind of crazy the ascension that Josh Allen has had in the past year, where there are a lot of people like questioning his, even starting ability. Like, would he have longevity with the Bills, or would he be moving on? Now we're saying he's consensus quarterback 2, which I don't really disagree with, but like, imagine just trading for Josh Allen at such a nice price last year. Unless you guys have something to add on Josh Allen, I kind of wonder, like, who do you guys think would be that next guy? Who do you think that next guy that's currently ranked outside of quarterback 10, and you trade for them?
QB 10.
Was Josh Allen ranked? I tried to trade him in our league at the beginning of last year for 2 firsts, and I was declined. I think he was inside the top 10 quarterbacks.
He was close. He was close to outside quarterback 10.
So guys,
he definitely wasn't in top 5.
So guys outside the top 10 that you can see like kind of getting into that top 5.
I think that there's a guy that we're going to touch on probably next in Tua that could potentially take that jump. I've talked about it before. I know JT, you have him as your most underrated quarterback in this division. I just think, he was coming off a major surgery. He had a COVID offseason. Give him a full year removed from the injury, a full offseason to learn the playbook and better understand the playbook, have experience in the NFL, and add 2 weapons like, Jalen Waddle and Will Fuller. This offense is going to be very fast, and I think it's an offense that's going to benefit Tua here compared to what he was working with last offseason as a rookie in a COVID year. I could just see him taking a step forward. There's a reason that so many teams wanted to take him so high in the NFL draft. The dude has the talent, and I just think he'll put it together this year.
Frank, just looking at as of August of 2020, Josh Allen was quarterback 10. Exactly.
Okay. I don't know if rookies count. But
yeah, we'll let them count.
The guy outside the top 10 that I think could get into the top 5 is Trey Lance. I think if we just see him like look super comfortable in that 49ers offense. We see him. I think Shanahan's going to use his legs a lot in the red zone on some like different sweep kind of plays, different zone reads. I think he's someone that like you can see skyrocket into like that top 5 or 6 discussion if he performs well and gets like the chance to start a couple weeks.
Isn't he QB9 right now though?
I'm not sure of his exact ranking, but I would have
QB10. QB10.
Okay, so he's in the exact spot Josh Allen was last year. Yeah. So he's my guy for that.
Frank, if you don't have anything to add, I kind of just threw that out there. I don't know what you guys.
I can say one.
I got.
Oh, you guys got multiple. Wow, I know.
No, I got multiple. I thought we were going to move on because I wanted to touch on Mitch Trubisky and see if you guys think he had any sort of chance of kind of a Tannehill-esque turnaround here. I mean, like, no. Obviously, like, it won't be in Buffalo, but if he could learn under Josh Allen, see what he does, and sign somewhere else next offseason, you think he has any chance to turn around?
Absolutely.
I'll let Frank get to his point. I'll just say mine really quick. I don't see a Tannehill type turnaround. I could see him being a bridge starter for a team that like drafts a rookie and they want Mitch to start like maybe the first 8 to 12 weeks of the season. I don't know if it's enough to where I think he's going to fully turn around and become like a franchise starter again.
I mean, but that's the same thing people were saying about Tannehill. So I understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. Mitch looked horrible. But in his rookie year, he showed some flashes, so I'm not going to completely trash him.
I mean, looked horrible. Here's the thing that I think is misunderstood about Mr. Trubisky, because this is a guy that I didn't really like a lot coming out, and I was very critical of when, after his first year and his second year, where a lot of people were still on that Mitchell Trubisky train. I mean, he went 12-4 his rookie year, so he had a lot of
I think
people,
that was a sophomore.
Whatever, right? Early in his
Yeah.
career, they had they won a playoff game, and or did they lose that first playoff game to the Eagles? Is that what happened? Or did they win one before that?
They
should have won that game.
Double doink.
So, and then obviously he had some poor play in his third year, and rightfully so. He was criticized. I was one of those people. But then if we look at last year, right, in the second half of last year more specifically, there was 4 quarterbacks that were the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL. It was Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, and people don't want to admit it, but Mitchell Trubisky was one of those guys. If you look at the Bears offense at the end of last year, yes, partly it was because David Montgomery was just raking it up against bad run defenses, but Mitchell Trubisky was out there and he was balling, except for that last week against the Packers. That Bears offense was firing on all cylinders. And a large part of that was because Mr. Trubisky was actually playing well. But the writing was already on the wall. That organization had already made their decision to move on from Mitchell Trubisky after, midway through last year. They made the playoffs, and you knew he was gone. We all knew he was gone, and they didn't pick up his option and all that. He was gone. There was no way he was going back. Unless they went to the Super Bowl, there was 0% chance that Mitchell Trubisky was going to be the starting quarterback. I think he made a good move, signing a 1-year deal to be with Buffalo. Like Jake said, learn under Josh Allen, learn with Brian Dable, who I think is one of the top OCs in the league. And I could easily see him going into a team like the Steelers maybe, without Ben Roethlisberger, where he can go compete against a rookie. And the dude has all the talent in the world and actually started to put it together at one point. Last point I'll make, if you look at that Saints game, the Bears played like crap. He was the best offensive player on that field for them. He played well. He didn't drop that pass 50 yards in the end zone. He can't catch the ball for the receivers. He actually played well. It's just that Saints defense is good, and they didn't have Darnell Mooney. So, I don't know. I think that Mitch Trubisky can absolutely turn around. Maybe not on the level of Tannehill, but I do not think that the story for Mitchell Trubisky is over just yet.
Dude does have an MVP.
Yeah.
Who else can say that?
No one. Literally no one.
Yeah. My opinion on Mitch Trubisky, and then we can, unless Lounis, you have anything else to add, but my opinion on Mitch is, before we move on to the Dolphins, is that I just think his brand and who Mitch is just so soiled at this point, where I don't think he's going to really even be afforded the opportunity to start. And if he does, I'm just not sure he's the guy like a team's going to rally around and he will produce numbers with. I just think, like, if you're buying him with the expectation that he might get another chance at another team, I think you're kind of overpaying at that point. I just think he's going to live the rest of his career as a backup, Blake Bortles-esque. But we'll see.
Yeah, but overpaying, I think that you can realistically expect to trade him for an early 4th round pick, and I don't think you're going to get a quarterback with higher upside than Mitchell Trubisky for an early 4th.
Jake, you have Mitch in our league. What's Mitch cost?
I would guess like a 3rd somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say late 3rd, so early 4th, not too far off.
Okay.
Come a rookie draft, I think that you can
come
get
a rookie draft, if there's someone sitting there on the board I like, and then go, okay, I'll give you this pick for Trubisky, I'll be like, sure. I mean, I like Trubisky. I think he's the guy that I put as the backup to own in this division, and I think there is a chance that he does turn around. Obviously, it won't be this year, barring any Josh Allen injury, but hey, Josh Allen plays like it's Madden. He runs around in circles and flicks the ball down the field one hand. I don't know. He does a lot of things. He looks like he's mashing buttons half the time on a controller when he's playing. So I love to watch him, but I could see him getting injured.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that price, I feel like it's fine. Like, there aren't many players I like after the mid-3rd anyway. So if you're giving up a late 3rd, early 4th for Mitch, it can't really kill you. Like it would have to be like a Antonio Gibson, Chase Claypool kind of player for that to happen. I mean, that's just a dart throw. Like you have to really know your stuff.
That's what I'm getting at, is that if you're paying an early fourth for him, I back up to own. I think he's the guy. I'm not giving up a late third for him. I will diamond hands. And the thing is that I'm just coming from during a rookie draft. I really do think that in a lot of leagues, if you have 401, 402, 403, and you offer it up, in 40 to 50% of leagues, maybe even more, you're going to get Mitchell Trubisky. If there's like during the draft, there's going to be a guy that someone likes. Maybe a Dez Fitzpatrick before the Julio trade. And that guy can say, oh, well, I can get a possible wide receiver too in exchange for Mitchell Trubisky. I think a lot of owners would go for that. Let's move on, though.
Yeah. So, Dolphins, Tua, very split on Tua. Jake and I both say Tua is underrated. Lounis and Frank say Tua is our most overrated. I mean, I'll just jump into it real quick right here. I just think Tua is when you compare Tua to players that are coming out in this draft, and you've got Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. I think Tua, personally, in my personal rankings, I would have ranked Tua third behind Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. So to be, 6-7 spots behind those players, when he didn't have like a great season, but there's like a lot of different things you could point to for Tua. Not great offensive weapons, lots of injuries, COVID year, instability of when he was playing, when he wasn't. Like this Dolphins team also still wasn't supposed to be that great, and they almost made the playoffs. Like, I mean, not really thanks to Tua, but like this team overperformed as well. Now he's also getting more weapons. It's his second year, a full training camp. I think there's a lot of reasons to really like Tua, and to have him as literally like a middle of the pack guy, I think is kind of a disservice to Tua. If you're going to put these rookies over him, because there's no guarantee any of these rookies are going to be better than Tua, and a lot of them are in, as great situations too. Justin Fields is on the Bears. Yes, he has Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, but it's the Bears. Like Zach Wilson's on the Jets.
Which rookie quarterbacks are you taking Tua over?
Well, I just said
it.
Yeah, I take him over. I take him over
Field.
Everyone not named Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. That was my that would be my rankings.
So you're taking Tua over Trey Lance?
Yeah. I think if the Dolphins wanted to, that's the other thing too. If the Dolphins wanted to, they could have taken Trey Lance. They could have taken any of the anyone.
They could have taken pretty much anyone not named Lawrence and Wilson.
Yeah, so they're telling you that they're confident in Tua too, right? If they went and drafted one of these quarterbacks, which they could have, like a Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray situation, and it's not out of the question, then I'd have pause. But the team's telling you that we like Tua, we're confident with Tua, we let Ryan Fitzpatrick go. Like Tua is our guy. That being said, I'll stop there. Actually, you guys refute me on Tua.
I'm trying to think where I'd have him ranked. Not too far. He was just the one, if I had to pick one, that I would say was the most overrated. I'd probably have him around like QB 18 to 20, somewhere in that range, just because I have him over most rookie quarterbacks not named Mac Jones. So the other four guys I have ahead: Wilson, Lance, Fields, and Lawrence. I just want to see him like for a full, now 17-game season, stay healthy first off, and that's kind of a given. But his injury history does play a small part. And mostly, I mean, last year, the talent's there, but last year there were games where like he really impressed me. Like I remember the game against Arizona was, I think, probably his best game as a pro, unless I'm missing one. And then there were games like he had against the Broncos, the Raiders wasn't great. Like he's one of like the more ultimate wild card QBs to me next year. I have no idea what to expect. The Dolphins have done everything right in terms of surrounding him with talent. So he has all the options. He said he didn't fully know the playbook as well last year, and now this year he's going to know it better. We'll see how that ends up looking. And like you said, they brought in Waddle and Fuller, which are two great deep threats and speed receivers, which should help him a lot. I think he's like a franchise QB. It's tough.
If you think Paul, if you think he's a franchise QB, to have him ranked QB 16 and say he's overrated is just doesn't make any
18 and
sense.
19.
I was gonna say it feels like
That
How
doesn't
many
make any sense.
non-franchise? I should have rephrased. I think he can be a franchise QB.
it feels like Lounis is
I'm
making
not
the case for
definitely
us.
on it. No,
Yeah,
I'm not
I think
definitely
we
on
should
it.
move
Seems
on,
like you're
JT.
on
We
it.
should-
No.
That's a
hold on.
win. That's a dub.
Okay, I should have worded. I think he can be, but it's just I don't know. There's so many iffy things about him. Like last year, did you really get sold on him on his play last year? Did you get
No.
sold on him in his play last year? I think the Dolphins made a mistake passing on Trey Lance, trading down from 3.
I'm not sold on his play, but like I
mean,
think
Trey
it's a
Lance
disservice.
has also. Sorry, JT, go on.
Go. No, you go.
I mean, listen, I'm a huge Trey Lance guy. Everyone knows it. I think he should go number 2 in every rookie draft. I think that's where he should go, is pick 2. But with that being said, he does have a lot of question marks of his own. He played at North Dakota State.
Yeah.
He didn't play all last season pretty much, except for that one game where he didn't look good. You know, there's a lot of question marks. There just is, and like obviously he went to a nice situation in San Fran, and with all those weapons and Kittle and Ayuk and Debo and all those guys with Trey Lance or Trey Sermon behind him now, like there's a whole bunch of reasons to like him, and I do like him. But there's obviously question marks with him, and I think there's obviously question marks with Tua based on his play last year, and just to rate one guy 7 spots or 8 spots higher, I think that's kind of just a disservice, like JT said.
Yeah, that was the crux of my argument.
I want to hear what Frank has to say because I know he's on my side.
Honestly, for me, I think that Tua has the talent. I think the problem for me is the Dolphins. I forget who said it, but someone said that they did a great job surrounding him with talent. I think that is completely false. I think that they completely botched this draft. I think they had the opportunity to surround him with a guy like a Kyle Pitts or a Jamar Chase, and they settled for someone that I had at a late first round, mid to late first round grade.
Oh, I disagree.
And you were supposed to
Waddle, but that's a different story.
Okay. Well, here's my argument. If I look at guys, because if you're drafting, you had the number 3 pick. You were drafting, whether it's number 3, number 6, number 7, whatever the fuck. You're drafting in the top 10. You're drafting for gold jackets, all right? You're not drafting because, I want a speed threat or, I want this. No, you're drafting a dude that's going to be freaking insane. And if I look at every receiver in this class, Waddle is not above that threshold for me. Jamar Chase, I can see it. Devontae Smith, I can see it. Kyle Pitts, anyone can see it. You could be blind and still freaking see it with Kyle Pitts. And you decided to pass on those guys for extra first-round picks. What the fuck? What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, hey, Lounis, who do you have ranked higher, Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle?
Oof, you're putting me on the spot. Who do I think is going to have better NFL pre-draft as a pure prospect?
I shouldn't ask Lounis. He's an Eagle fan. What am I saying?
No. I had Waddle ranked ahead as a prospect.
Yes.
Who do I think will put up better NFL stats? I picked Smith because he's like going to be kind of like force-fed a shit ton of targets.
Because he's on the Eagles. Go on.
No, look at the opportunity for both. Will Fuller.
Well,
you're comparing.
Who's going to pass way more than Jalen Hurts? So like,
I think Tua will have more passing yards than Jalen Hurts, but I expect like I'll ask you now, who do you think gets more targets? I'll say the first 2 seasons between Waddle and Devontae.
Waddle.
I mean, they're different. I mean,
listen, but argue Waddle and Devontae Smith. Let's argue Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins' offense. Here's my thing: what competitive advantage do the Dolphins have just in their division, which is a division of, aside from the Bills, subpar offenses? They do not have the best offensive line. They do not have the best receivers. They don't have the best running back. They probably have the worst running back. So where the hell am I getting a competitive advantage? I'm asking Tua to carry this team. And lastly, I think they easily have the worst offensive coaching in the league. They have co-offensive coordinators. When is the last time you have ever heard an elite offense have co-offensive coordinators? I don't think I ever have. I think that the Dolphins, they had it set up for a home run. They got too cute, and they hit a double in the draft. They had a double with the offseason. I don't think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to carry this team, and I don't think that the Dolphins are putting him in a position to ascend to this top 5 quarterback that, yes, he very well could be. I'm not buying him, though. I'm staying very far away from Tua.
Well, all right. Just real quick, then we'll move on to the Jets. That's kind of why, like, as much as I like Tua, right? It seems almost like the Dolphins are the ones that are most willing to have the short leash and kind of pull. So that's why I put Jacoby Brissett as my backup tone. Because I
I
mean,
put my backup tone because of Tua's injury history.
yeah, being honest, like Josh Allen, like I get Mitch is okay, but like Cam Newton, not great. James Morgan, I don't even think we need to spend a minute on James Morgan. But let's move on though to the Jets. Zach Wilson, quarterback 13, keep trade cut. Two of us had him as our most overrated, Jake and myself. Frank said he's the most confident, he'll maintain his value. Luna said he was overrated, but not the most overrated. So 3 of us are saying he's overrated. And I think where this comes from is just like, I'm not confident that Zach, like of the top 5 quarterbacks next to Mac Jones, Zach Wilson's the one I'm least confident in will be like a good quarterback.
My thing with, by the way, I do want to clarify with when I put the O next to Mac Jones, if I could add another C, I would. It's just more, if I had to pick, would I rather move from 2 spots up or 2 spots down? Probably move 2 spots down before I move 2 spots up. I don't hate that ranking. I'd probably have him like QB 14, 15, but like around that range. I don't hate it. I know you're about to go on why you're not a believer in him, but I don't know. I kind of believe in this whole new Jets setup. The new coaches, new QB, the weapons they brought in, and even though I didn't like him for fantasy. I think Fields and Lance have higher ceilings in fantasy. I still do like Wilson. I think he's going to end up being a long-term quarterback for the Jets.
Frank, I hear you clicking away, and I'm kind of worried about what you might be doing. But
he's scheming something.
He's got a smirk going.
I feel like something's about to go over me.
But my thing with Zach Wilson is like, I do feel like he gets kind of a disservice because he's on the Jets, and it's just LOL Jets. Like they don't have good quarterbacks. But I just think when you look at players and like what they did in college, Zach Wilson against Power 5 teams like just did not do well. Like he was not successful against Power 5 teams. And who's he playing against? Like where did these players come from on defense? Like most of them are from Power 5 conferences on defense. So if I'm picking one that's going to struggle the most, it's going to be Zach Wilson. And I think that's, the risk that's not baked in there as much as, the other quarterbacks like Mac Jones. So that's all I got on that. Anything else, Frank? You're still clicking away.
I'm screwing this up. I was trying to get something on the screen, but I screwed it up. Yeah, but long story short, I just think you're taking the bait, man. I think that Zach Wilson, if Trevor Lawrence didn't exist, Zach Wilson would have been the number 1 pick. Zach Wilson
Justin Fields
is the most talented quarterback in this class outside of Trevor Lawrence. I'm not even sure it's close. Yeah, and I don't know. I think Zach Wilson has basically every intangible you could really want in a quarterback. And going back to your Power 5 thing, there's been a whole lot of quarterbacks that have had plenty of NFL success without having a ton of against Power 5 success. And last time I checked, some of his best games were against some pretty difficult schools and difficult situations where he was on the worst team. So
I don't know. Like if you could point to like the likes of Josh Allen and whatnot, but Josh Allen just didn't even play against the Power 5 schools. Like we saw Zach Wilson play against Power 5 schools, and Zach Wilson did not play well. But I mean, we could do this debate all day, I guess. I think we should move on into what I feel like is not debatable is the
worst
AFC,
running back division in all of football.
AFC,
I didn't realize how bad it was all the way around.
Maybe of all time. Like I don't know any division that's looked ever like the highest ranked player in this entire division is Michael Carter at running back 26. I mean, I'll just run through it real quick. You're about to hear a lot of gross names, though, so you might want to hit the 15+ skip button real quick. But we've got Damian Harris, RB32, Ramondre Stevenson, RB50, Sony Michel, RB73, James White, RB75, JJ Taylor, RB80. On the Bills, Zach Moss, RB33, Devin Singletary, RB44, Matt Breida, 94. On the Dolphins, Myles Gaskin, 28. Garrett Doak, 72, Malcolm Brown, 76, and then on the Jets, you've got Michael Carter, 26, Ty Johnson, 64, Michael Pirine, 62, and Tevin Coleman, 71. Guys, that's a lot of names of just like, I don't want them on my team kind of running backs. Like, I'm trading them for whatever value I can get.
There are two guys I like.
All right, well, let me try and find like a place to start.
Let's just start at the top. Let's start with the Pats.
This is one of the two guys I like.
I can start. I think Damian Harris I have ranked as the most underrated running back in this division. To have him ranked 32nd overall at running back is a joke. This offense, like Frank said, is a good running offense. I think it will continue to be. I think Bill Belichick, he's a smart coach, obviously. A lot of people think he's the best coach of all time. He knows that his team needs to run the football to be successful, and he has 5 running backs here that are all going to touch the ball, and I think Damian Harris is the best of them all. I think we saw it last year when he got a significant amount of touches. He produced. He really had some really nice games, and I think he will continue. He comes from that Alabama offense, and he transitioned. He missed most of his rookie year, and now he's starting to pick up steam, and I think running back 32 is just way too low for this guy. I would have him somewhere around probably running back 26, 25, 26 up there, move him up 7, 8 spots. And I think that's more likely where you'll see him finish. He's going to get the touches in this offense over Sony Michel, over James White, over JJ Taylor. The only guy I'm worried about is Ramondre Stevenson taking goal line from him, but that's about it. And I think Damian Harris is pretty good around the goal line. So
yeah. And kind of going off Jake's point, in 10 games last year, Damian Harris had 137 rushing attempts for 691 yards, over 5 yards a carry, 5.04, and then only 2 touchdowns. I expect that to kind of average out more and the touchdowns to go up to the amount of rushing yards he had. But 691 yards and over 5 yards per carry in only 10 games is not bad at all for an offense that you know is going to be a run-first offense, and especially if you're like me and Jake and you think he's the most talented pure runner in the on the team. I expect James White to kind of be the receiving guy. I think he's a little bit underrated too at his ranking of 70 something.
Let me jump in right there, Lounis. I agree with you guys that Damian Harris is underrated. I think James White is actually the most underrated. I get that
he's tough to choose between.
Yeah.
James White's starting to age out here, and he doesn't have his best friend Tom Brady playing quarterback anymore. So
he's 29. He's 29, right? But he's currently ranked as RB75. Where I think he, like in half point in PPR leagues, I think he has RB2 upside because you just got rid of Rex Burkhead. None of these other guys are pass catching backs, right? Damian Harris in those 10 games, I think, had 7 targets. Like Sony Michel's not catching the ball, neither is Ramondre Stevenson. James White's getting all these running back targets. With Cam Newton in, there's Christian McCaffrey, so you can't even say that like Cam didn't throw a running back. We saw Mac Jones with Najee Harris. Mac Jones throws to a running back. I think we are going to see a lot of targets to James White. Obviously, it's like that. It's going to be the ugly running back 2 kind of style, right? The Nyheim Hines, the J.D. McKissick, where it's like some weeks you might get 0 points because he just doesn't get any targets, and then some weeks you might get like 20 because they're trying to play from behind and they just keep checking it down and he runs in for 2 touchdowns. But I do believe like he has that running back 2 upside that you're not going to find many other places other than the likes of Nyheim Hines and maybe J.D. McKissick, but probably not this year. Anything you want to add, Frank?
I agree. This is an offense that I think is going to be top half of the league in rushing, and they don't have a running back ranked in the top 30. So I just think that I think the problem is who's it going to be, because I have my most underrated guy is Sony Michel, not because I think that Sony Michel is amazing or anything, but if I'm just going off of a pure talent perspective, I can easily name a whole lot of running backs that are ranked above Sony Michel that I think Sony Michel is more talented than. I think a great example is like Chase freaking Edmonds. Are you really going to make an argument to me that the Chase, it's only a product of situation. And honestly, when Sonny Michel played last year, part of the reason he hasn't been a success is because of these injuries. When Sonny Michel is playing, he's actually a pretty good running back, especially statistically. If you look at like his averages compared to other running backs and like what he does when he actually touches the football. So I think the only drawback from the Patriots offense is that not only do we not know who the hell is going to get the ball, it really could be Committee City out here.
Okay.
Which doesn't really bode well usually.
I'm glad you used the word Committee City because let's just move on to the Bills. Committee City with Devin Singletary, Zach Moss. We're kind of across the board on Devin Singletary all over the place. Some of us have him overrated, underrated. Although we're all in consensus that Zach Moss is underrated at RB33. And Jake and I are both confident that he'll be the one to maintain the value out of the AFC East. This is kind of like a gross team where it's like, which guy do I pick? Like, you obviously never hope for injuries, but like you feel a lot better if one of these guys was out because then the other guy like is guaranteed to at least be productive. Yeah, like this is a backfield that I kind of just want to avoid in general. Like I just don't know. I wouldn't really feel comfortable with either of those guys like starting as my RB2. But at the same time,
Lounis is like, I'd kill myself.
I'd be pissed, man.
I don't know how to tackle these guys. Do any of you guys have a strategy?
You literally, if you have to start them, you just pray. You just pray. You pray that randomly Singletary catches like a 5-yard pass for a touchdown. Or you pray that Zach Moss gets like goal line carries.
I like Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss is a very, very good player, and I think he's a guy that if he's given the opportunity, I think can really thrive. I mean, I think Devin Singletary is going to fill more of that passing back, and Moss can be more of that thunder, that power back, just because he's a bigger back. And I think you pair him with Josh Allen, who's obviously a threat to run from the quarterback position, to go along with Diggs on the outside, and they brought in Emmanuel Sanders, and they still have Beasley and Gabriel Davis and all these wide receivers. And I think, he's a guy that's going to get lost in that offense, and I think he could kind of benefit from it in terms of people aren't going to be game planning to stop Zach Moss by any stretch of the imagination. And I think he's a really good, talented running back.
I agree. Zach Moss is definitely real quick. I'll just cut you off for 1 sec. I definitely agree. Zach Moss is the one to own. I'd much rather own Zach Moss. It's just like both of them are like they're not bad, but like they're not good, and they get like split carries. And then I also kind of think that the running back that's their leading rusher, not this upcoming season, but the next season, so the 2022-2023 season, isn't on the roster right now.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, we talk about Lamar Jackson, and Jake kind of alluded to it. Like Zach Moss and Devin Singletary combined for 6 touchdowns last year rushing. Josh Allen had 8. So like it's not easy when you're getting your touchdowns poached from your quarterback. Like it's very hard to produce at that point and be like a high quality running back.
Well, not only that, I think one thing that not a lot of people realize about this offense with Brian Dable is that he's one of the more creative guys in the league, and you're going to see Isaiah McKenzie and their tight end, what's his name?
Dawson Knox.
They're going to use those guys and try to get them in space with the ball in their hands like you usually would a running back in these red area and even just in any area of the field, because I mean, Dawson Knox and Isaiah McKenzie are 2 players that are pretty damn good with the ball in their hands and are tough to bring down. And I mean, compared to a running back, you don't really expect them to be getting the ball behind the line of scrimmage. So I kind of agree with you guys. While I do have both of these running backs as underrated, it's not by much. And even if you're getting them, it's at the end of the day, I feel like this is an offense where if you're at the running back position, your upside's capped. There's just not really, okay, yeah, you're underrated, but Zach Moss might go from RB33 to RB25. And like, does that really make a difference? I don't know.
Yeah, somewhat, not really. But let's just move on. The Dolphins. Jake, I've kind of been noticing across the board we're much more in agreement on this division, which is funny. But Myles Gaskin, almost across the board, most overrated at RB28. Then you got Malcolm Brown, who we all said was underrated at RB76. Jake said he's the backup to own. And then you got Garrett Dokes, RB72, who we all said was overrated. There's this Frank kind of talked about earlier, like with the getting the weapons around Tua, like sticking with Myles Gaskin as your number one running back is not helping Tua. And we kind of all see this. This is just a gross backfield. Again, like I said earlier, I don't want any of these guys on my team, really. I'd be looking to sell any of them.
It's another one of those guys situations where they're running back of the future for the 2022-2023 season. I don't think is on the roster. And I agree with kind of what we all said, where I think Myles Gaskin's owners are going to be annoyed at how much run Malcolm Brown gets this year, especially in the goal line, kind of in between the tackle runs. I think Gaskin will get his catches, and I think he will still get like carries, and I think he'll be listed as a starter. But Malcolm Brown's going to get touches because Myles Gaskin isn't talented enough to keep him off the field. So I think that's something that Gaskin owners need to be prepared for, and just kind of test if there's a believer in your league in him. I'd see what the trade interest is.
Malcolm Brown's going to be on the field. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
He's the better pass blocking running back, and he's going to be on the field when they need to protect Tua. So I think he's going to be very close to Gaskin in production, in my opinion. So
Guys,
not saying either's going to be great, but
Frank likes to throw around the word bait a lot. I think Dokes is the bait on this team. He got drafted in our league that we took over as a team this year. He got drafted in the early fourth round, and to me, I don't even think he should be drafted.
Did he actually?
Yeah, I don't think he should be drafted. And then I think there's
usually
going to be
he should be drafted in general. I mean, I take a flyer on him in the fifth.
Well, I guess it's fine. I mean, in the fifth, it's whoever you just really like. But I truly believe that he's going to be someone that could move up into the third round as camp goes on. Because I don't know if you guys follow any of the Dolphins beat reporters. I kind of do to a little bit of an extent. Like they like to hype up their guys. And so if Dokes is getting the hype, I could see him being the not to the extent, but the Keyshawn Vaughn, the Darwin Thompson, the Justice Hill guy out of this draft class, the one that just
well, here's my opinion on the Dolphins backfield, and I don't know if this is a popular opinion or not, but to me, with all the moves that the Dolphins have made, mind-boggling or not, this feels like a team that is going to be wrecked by a free agent signing or a trade destination. Yeah. Le'Veon Bell is a guy that comes to mind, but at the same time, it's a team that traded down and picked up extra draft capital once again. I would not be surprised to see them, whether it's during the season or some part during camp, after they're able to see what they have in Dokes and Malcolm Brown and how far along they get in the process. If they just decide, hey, we're going to pull the trigger and trade for a running back on some team that has one too many running backs, and they give up like a fifth or a sixth round pick to add some competition to the position after they see what they have going on. So I think right now, yes, Myles Gaskin is overrated or whatever, but you probably picked him up for nothing. I would look to sell, but I'm not buying any of this Dolphins team, really.
Mm-hmm. Interesting thought behind trading for a running back. Who do you think would be available? Because the first name that comes to mind to me is one of my favorite running backs. I think it's Kareem Hunt, just because they're going to have to pay Nick Chubb, and they're not going to be able to keep Kareem Hunt. So if you can get anything for him, I don't think it's a bad move from Cleveland's point of view either.
I mean, that'd be a huge addition for Miami.
I think the Browns are in the position though of they really want to go for it this year.
I feel like they're going all in. There'll be some backup running backs for really cheap that they'll be able to get, or even just guys that when roster cuts happen during this preseason leading up to the regular season, there could be a veteran running back that just doesn't make the roster that Miami can pick up.
I think a few guys that come to mind for me, one of the Niners running backs, like a Raheem Mostert, I think could be someone that goes. I doubt one of the Patriots running backs, but maybe a Sony Michel if they just want to move. I doubt they would trade him in division though.
One of the Houston backs.
But
like Lindsey, Ingram, and David Johnson.
Well, they assigned Lindsey. I
if it's anyone's David Johnson, I think they keep him. But yeah, instead of speculating, let's just move on here.
Well, the one thing I will say though is what you guys just did was perfectly sum up. Like, if we're worried about Raheem Mostert like potentially ruining Myles Gaskin's like value, like it's just a backfield you don't want. Speaking of backfield that I don't want, we have the Jets. Michael Carter, Jake, and I both said was the most overrated. Lounis actually said he was underrated and was most confident would maintain his value. There's also Ty Johnson, Michael Pirine, and Tevin Coleman. I don't think Michael Carter starts the season. I don't even know if he ever becomes a starter on this team. I just think this is committee city.
This entire season?
No, I just think this is committee city again, where it's just you've just got all these different guys who they're gonna give a run to, and like, whoever they want to start that week look the best in practice is the one that starts. I don't like any of these guys. I'm not touching Michael Carter at the beginning of the second, into the first round. It's just it's a team that I want to avoid altogether.
Okay, I agree with you in that aspect in terms of I'm not buying at like this new elevated price. Like how I kind of viewed him as someone maybe at like 208, like 207, 209. I would take the chance on him there. I'm not taking him early second, and it's with the receivers and Sermon there, especially in the late first. But I'm fine with that running back 26 rank. I guess the main difference between me and you is I think he's going to be the starter. Maybe not week 1, but I think probably about like week 4 or 5. I think he's going to be a starter. I don't think it's going to be like a workhorse situation or anything, but I expect him to be the guy to get around maybe like 15, 16 touches a game.
And a lot of touches for a 4th round pick.
Yeah, what's his competition? The 6th round pick and the undrafted free agent. Like it's I think he's just more talented than those guys. Even though I like Pirine, I did list him as a running back tone because I think he's going to be kind of the change of pace guy there. But
listen, I like Michael Carter. I had him graded as a very high running back prospect on my board pre-draft. I just the hype that he's getting is just crazy. Just people are thinking he's automatically going to step in and be the starter just because of the backfield that's around him. But there's guys like Pirine, even Ty Johnson played well last year. And then they signed a vet in Tevin Coleman who's going to get a few touches a game. Like, it's just he's going to get a few touches a game. So as long as he's healthy, obviously, which has been Tevin Coleman's Achilles heel his whole career. But I'm not saying anything bad about Michael Carter, their player. I just don't like him at this value. I think at this value, he's way overpriced.
Well, what running back range would you list him around? Like 35?
205 in a rookie draft.
205 in a so 205 in a rookie draft. That's fair. I'm saying so. The running back listing here is RB26.
He's currently being taken against above James Robinson. I'd rather have AJ Dillon. I'd rather have Ronald Jones. I'd rather have Damian Harris. I'd rather have Zach Moss. I'd rather have, and then after those guys, it gets murky.
So, I'd definitely rather have Carter over Zach Moss. Carter versus Jamie. You taking Zach Moss over Carter?
Yes. Better offense, more draft capital in them. It's just doesn't make sense to me how you could just because of the situation you're going here.
All right.
I don't hate Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter's all right.
I like him, but it's just overvalued.
I don't know. I might even switch him to undervalued. I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing is with Michael Carter, I really don't think Michael Carter's that bad. Like, taking him in the very early second, dude, fuck it. Go ahead, King. I respect it.
Go ahead, King, he says.
I like Michael Carter. I still have him. I've had him at that 205 for a while now. I still would rather have Trey Sermon. But I think that this is going to be a little favorable spot for the Jets. I think that Zach Wilson is one of the few quarterbacks that really is great at getting his running backs involved in the passing game. This is a system that I think they're going to try to have that happen a little bit more than people are expecting. I think that Michael Pirine's a better value, but Michael Carter is not a bad buy by any stretch of the imagination, at least in my opinion.
All right.
Yeah, but no, I'm not taking him with like a 112 or a 111. Fuck that. In a super flex league.
Well, let's move on to the wide receivers. We kind of spent a long time on the quarterback, so I'm going to have to carry us through here real quick. Wide receivers, Patriots, Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver 70, Jacoby Myers 72, N'Keal Harry 111, Kendrick Bourne 112, Trey Nixon not ranked, Gunnar Olszewski not ranked, Bill Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 7, Gabriel Davis 55, Cole Beasley 84, Emmanuel Sanders 118, Isaiah Hodgins 125, Isaiah McKenzie not ranked, Dolphins, Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 25, Will Fuller 45, Devontae Parker 62, Preston Williams 95, Lynn Bowden 101, Jakeem Grant not ranked. And then the Jets, Corey Davis, wide receiver 52, Elijah Moore, wide receiver 29, Denzel Mims 57, Jameson Crowder 75, and Keelan Cole 121. I think we've been starting with the Patriots, so I mean, just real quick, who's the Patriots' number one wide receiver, guys? Like, who is that guy? Because
Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers.
Look at that. The squad has we're getting some heat for saying that we like Jacoby Myers 3-4 months ago, but I agree. I think Jacoby Myers is the wide receiver 1 on this team. And to be honest, I don't think this team really I don't want anyone else. Like you only want the wide receiver 1 from this team. I don't think that any of the other guys will be fantasy relevant. Like, I don't want Kendrick Bourne. I don't want N'Keal Harry. I'm not even sure N'Keal Harry is on the team come September.
I'd watch Trey Nixon, but that's just me.
Trey Nixon's the only other
guy. We all had him
as
underrated.
Yeah. But the team, though, it's just what is kind of crazy is the highest wide receiver ranked is Nelson Aguilar at wide receiver 70. So you're essentially saying every team on average at least has 2 wide receivers better than the first Patriots wide receiver, which I think is kind of insane. It's probably
Jacoby
not
Myers should
accurate.
be. And honestly, Aguilar too. 70 is kind of tough.
Here's the problem with Myers and Aguilar, because if you look at keep trade cut, they're tremendous value, and they're probably tremendous value in startups as well. But I think JT can attest to this, especially, is that you're not going to be able to get him at this wide receiver 70 price in a trade because they're good enough to where an owner's like, no, I'm not going to just give him up for bullshit. Like, you're going to actually have to throw like a second round pick to move him. And at that point, you're not paying a wide receiver 70 price for them. So while I could easily say, oh, go trade for these guys, like, unless you really need a receiver, I think the best way to end up with one of these players is to trade down into them. Like, let's say, kind of like the example I was using last week, like if I'm giving away a T. Higgins, well, all of a sudden Jacoby Myers looks like pennies, and that's how I think you'd want to get into him, is in a deal where you're trading from one of these sexy young pieces into,
and try to get him
I'll
like
throw
throw-in.
80 Jacoby Myerses to get one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of tried to do that with Jake. Jake did not accept that. Where I was trying to give him Jacoby Myers. And
he has to be like a throw-in. You have to be getting him like.
Well, he was like the 4th piece on what I was giving Jake.
Yeah, except they were all the same equivalent of Jacoby Myers.
That's not true. I was given like 201. No, I was given like 201 in a super flex plus multiple seconds plus Jonnu Smith. Like, Jacoby Myers was like the least valuable of them.
The backup tight end.
But you are getting there is one player on this team that is going to be a steal. You can see it.
Yeah.
Know there's no shot that they don't have a receiver in the top 70 players.
There was a point in time. There was like a 4-week stretch where Jacoby Myers was outscoring DeAndre Hopkins, and like they were both healthy. The situations were the same. Like Jacoby Myers was outscoring DeAndre Hopkins, and then.
I'm not going to look too much. There was
think about how many
was...
times Cam Newton threw it in the dirt right in front of him.
Exactly.
Even though I like Jacoby Myers, I'll refute that. There was like a 5-week stretch where Travis Fulgham was like wide receiver too.
No, yeah, I agree. But Travis Fulgham was carried. Travis Fulgham was carried by touchdowns. Do you guys know how many touchdowns Jacoby Myers scored in his career? In his career, 0. He scored 0 career touchdowns, and he was like performing like he's a PPR machine. I think
he's a strong word, but yeah,
he's the next in line of the Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, like that. This is Jacoby Myers' role to it's his for the taking, because Kendrick Bourne's not familiar with the playbook, and Kendrick Bourne honestly isn't really scaring me. So it's Jacoby Myers, and then it's Nelson Aguilar, and then nothing really. Maybe you put Trey Nixon on your taxi. That's it. Moving on, we've got the Bills, who they've got their stud in Stephon Diggs, and then Gabriel Davis, who most of us are high on. I don't really know what to say about this team. I think the one that I want to focus on actually is not those two guys. It's Emmanuel Sanders, who Lounis and I have as the backup tone. Cole Beasley came out with some some weird statements that like I don't know, it got controversial. People on both sides were like arguing back and forth over what he had to say.
Thrashed on Twitter.
Like he threatened to retire over the COVID vaccine and testing. And
I don't think it was just about like if it's like he's anti-vax, it's whatever. But I think no, it was like the comparison he made. It was like I had like
we're not getting into that right now. We're not
it was like the 1% chance I make it to the NFL and played in 8 years. It was like something I forgot what he said word for word.
It was weird, but so you've got Cole Beasley threatening retirement. I mean, Frank's high on Isaiah Hodgins. None of us really like Isaiah McKenzie. I think Emmanuel Sanders is that wide receiver 3, maybe even wide receiver 2. Like they lost John Brown. Who knows what Cole Beasley's going to do? Emmanuel Sanders, I still think has something in the tank. So that's the guy that I'm looking at to acquire for real cheap. Like I don't even know what he's worth at this point. Like can't be much, it can't be much more than a fourth. He'd be JT. Yeah, he'd be the one that I'd be looking to snag.
What you have to remember about the Bills is that like the Bills' third receiver is going to get way more targets than their starting running back. Like
yeah.
Like, dude, this team they're like, hey, Josh Allen, here's the ball. Go chuck it 80 fucking times. Like, we do not care.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of priced accordingly, though. The Bills' third wide receiver is priced almost the same as the Patriots' first wide receiver. So, like,
yeah,
you are kind of seeing that. I don't know. We know Josh Allen's good. I think we're all pretty confident Stephon Diggs will be fine. None of us have him as the most confident to maintain value, but
I think that's just due to his age. That's the only reason I didn't put him there is because I think he's still going to produce massively. But I think then people are going to turn around and go, "Oh, he's 28. He's done."
Yeah, I didn't really want to pick overrated or underrated. Wide receiver 7 is fine. I expect him to be a top 10 wide receiver for the next couple years. He's still a stud. He's a wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm. We talked about Hodgins last week. Anything else you guys want to add on
real
Bills?
Quick, JT.
Why am I getting clowned?
The fact that Cole Beasley is your overrated at wide receiver 84 when he finished as a mid wide receiver 2 last year. Get out of here.
You're clowning yourself.
No, he's not my most overrated. He's just
executive clown.
I just said he was overrated. He's not my most overrated. Get out here with that. That's malarkey.
Malarkey.
It's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
It's malarkey.
That's unfair. That's unfair because we don't even know he threatened retirement. So
all right, I'll remember. You convinced me. All right, let's move on.
All right, we spent a lot of time already on Jalen Waddle, so I think we could skip him. The Dolphins. I think what we really have to cover is Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and even I guess Lynn Bowden, who was kind of like a mix. I just stuck him with wide receivers, so like he could kind of see running back touches too, which we didn't even really talk about. Will Fuller is the guy that I'm most confident will maintain his value. Like he could be the wide receiver 1 on this team, to be honest. And he's
wide receiver 45 is pretty low.
Yeah, he's 20 spots behind Jalen Waddle. He is going to miss the first game due to the suspension. But I think he's the guy, like, if he can stay healthy, which has been a big if in the past, like he'll be the wide receiver 1 on this team, I believe. You guys have anything to add on Fuller?
I don't think for the whole season. I think by like the second half of the season, we'll see Waddle taking over. But I think Fuller he's gonna have a better. He should be higher than 45. He should be in the 30s somewhere. That's my opinion.
Do you guys like any of are you going out and getting Devontae Parker or Preston Williams?
I'm not trying to buy it. I mean, I guess it's like if their value is like close to nothing, like it depends. Like what can you get Devontae Parker for right now?
You'd probably
late
pay
second,
which is too much.
Yeah, I'm not paying a second for Devontae Parker. It really, I feel like maybe Preston is someone you could maybe see value in like a startup because I guess he's going really late. But even him, like he hasn't been the same since that knee injury.
Yeah,
I am not touching Preston Williams at a 10-foot pole.
He's got a lot of hype.
Another 10-foot
He's got
pole.
a lot of hype.
He was good his rookie year. It's just ever since
he was good
like
for like
games.
6 games.
It's kind of
he
like
only played like 8 games his rookie year.
Well, the thing about Preston Williams is like if people value Travis Fulgham really highly still, like that's what Preston Williams currently is.
I have a general rule
he's
of
better
thumb.
than that.
I have a general rule of thumb. If there is a player that I am hammering their under on receptions and making cash basically every single week except for one, I am not going to go out and buy that player. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
That's fair.
Good point.
Bringing Ben into this. All right, let's move on then. The Jets, they're the most interesting one. Corey Davis almost across the board we had as the most underrated. Wide receiver 52 is just insane to me. When I think he's
crazy.
I think he's the guarantee. I like Elijah Moore. I still think Corey Davis is like the guaranteed wide receiver one on this team.
I think he's someone that contenders should go and like. In our league, I know the person who has him values him a lot, so it's kind of tough for us. But I think in other leagues, if you're a contender, I would see what the price is for Corey Davis because he's going to be the number one receiver. And even if you're like an Elijah Moore believer and think he can become the number one eventually, which I do think, it's going to take a little bit of time, and he's going to be playing in the slot a lot. Like Corey Davis is going to be the pure outside number one.
I mean, think about it like this, too. If we're expecting to see a similar offense to what the 49ers run, I mean, they like these big athletic receivers that you put the ball in their hands and they can make something happen. I mean, that's what Corey Davis was last year for the Tennessee Titans, and we can only expect that to continue. So, yeah, I completely agree with that, Lounis. If you're a contender, you have a second-round pick, shop it for Corey Davis. If you need a receiver that can play in your flex spot, and maybe even if you have like three receivers, you need a third wide receiver. Dude, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to roll the dice at 207 on some random receiver, why not trade it for Corey Davis and get a guy that you know can produce?
Now, I think we talked about Elijah Moore a lot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, Jake's on the anti-Corey Davis train.
I'm not. I mean, at receiver 52, he is undervalued. There's no doubt about it. But to come out here and say that you think he's what? You think he's a reliable wide receiver 3 for a contender
for next season?
Yeah. A flex player, why not?
Just like I thought he needs to be the number 2 wide receiver on a team. He is not the alpha wide receiver. That's why he was so successful when A.J. Brown finally broke out, because teams could shift their coverage towards A.J. Brown. Yes, he'll beat a one-on-one coverage every time. I understand that. But in this Jets offense, he's not going to get that. I think this offense is going to be so split up. I think people are underrating players like Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole, who are established veteran wide receivers. I mean, obviously, Corey Davis is better. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm just saying he's not going to be as open as he was with A.J. Brown on the opposite side of him last year.
Now, Jake, you kind of just touched on some stuff. I think we talked about Elijah Moore a lot already, and we're kind of short on time. So I think what we could talk about right now, though, is that third wide receiver, right? Because I feel like Denzel Mims, he's the person that, I mean, I even tweeted about it from the 3rd and 20 account. Like, people were really starting to buy into the Denzel Mims hype, and I was like, I don't know about this, everyone. Like, I think this might be his peak value. And then, news broke out that he was in training camp or whatever, the OTAs, he was running with the second team. And I think the valuation
right 57. I mean, I'll make my.
Well, that's where I was going, Lounis. Right? I think at this point it's going to start to overcorrect to the point where Denzel Mims might be a buy again, because I still think he could be a solid wide receiver, and if you're ranking him that low, I think it's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, I guess when I first saw it and I saw Mims only 5 spots lower than Corey Davis, I was like, are you kidding me? But I moved my most overrated. Like, I feel like everyone's kind of catching up, like you said, to kind of being like lower on him.
Yeah, because I think even his current price, like what Keep Trade says,
what's
like
his current price right now? Yeah,
right now, Denzel Mims versus pick 208 when people wouldn't trade him. He's basically worth 208, and people wouldn't trade him for like an early second. I think I'd still
rather have 208.
Yo, here's Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims is this little notebook.
Yeah.
Right in the trash can. Get him out of here.
I think I'd rather have 208. I'd give up not an early third, but I think something in the third round for him.
An early third for Denzel Mims, I'd be willing to do. Because to be honest, after like Diami Brown and maybe Nico Collins, like I don't really love many of these wide receivers in that range.
I mean, like at the beginning, I'd still take like a Josh Palmer or Nico Collins, like you said, over.
Maybe Keelan Cole over Denzel Mims. I think Keelan Cole, he's my backup to
I agree.
The Jets
Keelan Cole is like actually a good receiver, and I think part of the reason people don't realize that is that I really doubt many people actually watched a ton of the Jaguars games.
What do you mean you don't like watching a 1-15 team?
Yeah, a 1-15 boring ass offense. Like, dude, Keelan Cole is good. He was a guy that I had my eye on for wherever he went in free agency. And like, yeah, am I expecting anything from Keelan Cole? No, but he's probably at the back end of rosters on most leagues or on waivers, and you can pick him up.
Probably get him for a 5th or a 4th round pick max.
Yeah, you could get him for like a mid-4th during a rookie draft. Someone wants someone. Hey, here's a mid-4th for Keelan Cole. Hell yeah, I like that. I think Keelan Cole has some nice upside that is not really being priced in right now. I'm not expecting much out of him, but dude, he could easily pan out to be a wide receiver 3, finish like wide receiver 45, 43 on the season, and have some weeks where he's startable. That is nowhere near priced into his wide receiver 121 price.
Yeah, he's essentially free. So yeah.
And I guarantee you he was on waivers at some point in your league like last year. And like obviously if you have big ass leagues it's different, but yeah.
All right, let's move on to the last positional group then. The tight ends. This is an interesting one, the Patriots. After that, it doesn't really get it's kind of boring. But you got the Patriots with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, both big free agent signings, 2 of the primary deals that they made. It is interesting. They're ranked tight ends 14 and 16, Hunter Henry 14, Jonnu 16. But they're both not going to be that high. Like I get that the Patriots were able to do Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, but that was also with Tom Brady as quarterback and not Mac Jones / Cam Newton. I don't know which one of them. One of them will maintain their value. I currently have that as Jonnu Smith, who I'm most confident in. And the other one I think will, start to fade away and join the wasteland. And, Hunter Henry was someone that Frank used to say was the essential, wasteland guy.
The quintessential bait.
Yeah. Are you still sticking with that, Frank?
Wait, so do you guys think these rankings are too high? I think those rankings are fine.
For one of them, it's going to be too high. When we go a year from now, it'll be too high.
I think those rankings are fine because if you look at the receiving core,
I agree. Those
targets have to go to someone.
My problem with Hunter Henry was that he was consistently a top 10 ranked tight end that everyone was like, "Oh, he's got top 5 potential." Where it's like, dude, yeah, I'm sorry, Hunter Henry is never going to be a reliable tight end, but now he's tight end 14. He's in a great situation. Like I'm not going out here necessarily and buying these guys in a lot of my leagues. Partly that's because I feel like I have tight ends in every league, and like partly because I think there's a little bit better buys. But if you just go down the line of Patriots positions, I do not think that they're going to be as bad as their prices indicate. Hunter Henry is the only player at any one of their positions that is ranked as an above average player.
And just barely at that. That is crazy when you put it. All right,
dude, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. They're not going to be below average everywhere.
We'll get to that in 2 minutes, Frank. We'll get to that in like 2 minutes.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
It's about 3 of the tight ends in this division. Then one tight end that I feel is ranked similar to them, and I just want to hear like a super quick ranking of the 4.
Okay.
Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, Logan Thomas, and Hunter Henry.
Logan Thomas, easy.
No, Jonnu, Logan Thomas, Hunter Henry, Gesicki. Last. I don't like. We'll get into. We can move on to Gesicki real quick. I do think one second. Hunter Henry and Jonnu have always been battling injuries, so I think Devin Asiasi is like that sneaky guy that you could just kind of stash on the very end of your waivers. I mean, I'm not advocating go out and buy him, Frank, but I'm advocating he's probably either on the waivers or on someone's taxi.
Right.
Who else is the backup to own?
I'll take Jacob.
Tyler Croft. Tyler Croft.
Yeah, Tyler Croft, I think, could easily be.
I'll take
the Jets tight end sucked ass last year.
Yeah, Herndon has been this tight end for the Jets. Gonna break out for how long now?
Herndon to break out for
exactly. Come on, no. Tyler Croft's at least been a productive player in the NFL with the Bengals for the past 2 years.
Okay. I think he just did a perfect job breaking down the Jets because that's all I got to think about the Jets.
Do we have any faith in Herndon? Anyone have
no, not really.
Zero.
That was probably my tweet. I don't think Chris Herndon's he wasn't just a product of Adam Gase and the failure. Like I don't think he's got.
I don't think he's
anything.
good.
Yeah.
Anyways.
See, here's the thing: the tight ends weren't a product of Adam Gase. The tight ends. I don't know how to phrase it, but there's some way to phrase it all wordy, coolly, where like,
tight ends.
yeah,
wordy,
like,
coolly.
yeah, Adam Gase was a product of the tight ends. That was his biggest downfall, is that these tight ends fucking sucked for Adam Gase. They were garbo.
All right, that's the Jets tight end. Dawson Knox.
Adam Gase.
I don't know why that was
the
so fun.
Dawson Knox, we all have as like the most underrated guy. I think it's just because like he's a guaranteed starting tight end, and like he's tight end 32. I think he's going to see more production, especially because Josh Allen just loves to sling it. So Dawson Knox at tight end 32 feels like a buy.
The problem is all these tight ends. Like, are any one of these dudes going to crawl out of the wasteland, just fight tooth and nail?
Well.
Maybe
John.
Is
I'm biased because I like
top 10?
Jonnu.
Is Wasteland top 10?
No, see, the thing is, top 10 at tight end is such a bait because, like,
yeah.
dude, you need it. Like, I need at least like, because I responded to Reese Morris, one of our big time viewers. Shout out Reese. I was like, listen, like, receivers every year, there's 30 or so that break 150 points, and unless you are one of those top tier receivers, I just need you to break 150. It's a similar thing for tight ends. Like, you're a good tight end if you break 150 points. Are one of these guys going to break 150 points? Yes or no?
No.
Which tight end number was 150 points? What, like tight end 6 last year? Tight end
I have
5?
no idea off the top of my head.
I'll
Let me
pull it
look.
up.
You'll pull it up. Think like, I don't know. Rob Gronkowski, I think, was like 130 points. And he was like a good tight end for teams at the end of the last year.
I don't know if this is kind of like a bullshit answer, but I think one of the two Patriots tight ends will break it. I don't know which one it'll be, but I think one of them will.
Dude, like realistically, if you desperately needed a tight end, it would not be hard to acquire both of these guys. I think that if you look across the league, there's a lot of owners trying to sell these guys and sell them high for like second round picks.
Yeah. I was one
Jake,
of them.
what were you gonna say?
So there was 7 tight ends to break 150 points.
So that would have been tight end 7.
Yeah, it was Kelsey, Waller, Tanyan, Logan Thomas, Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, and Gesicki. That was the only tight ends to break 150 points. Noah Fant, Rob Gronkowski, Hayden Hurst were all just barely missed out. They had 149. And then Dalton Schultz and Hunter Henry were closely behind with 146 and 145. So as you see, there's a lot of tight ends that were just right on that border. But the difference is if you go up to the top 2 tight ends, Kelsey had a 312 and Waller had 278. There's a clear top 2 in these tight ends. And if you're not one of those top 2, it doesn't really matter. There's obviously a few tier breaks along the way, but those top 2 tight ends.
Kittle will be back.
And Kittle will be back, exactly. But there's tight ends in general. If you're not a top 5 tight end, it really doesn't matter.
Well, and that brings me to our last point on these AFC East tight ends is Mike Gesicki. I think he's just doomed to be relegated out of the top 10 now.
He's a bait.
Like they picked up 2 wide receivers. They even drafted another tight end. Like you are switching.
Hunter Long's a blocking tight end though.
Yeah, I get that, but you're also switing from Ryan Fitzpatrick, who loved to sling it,
to
Tua, who's
and I think the receiver additions, because they have 3 receivers who are going to get like a decent amount of targets.
Mike Gesicki only did well when either Preston Williams or Devontae Parker were out, and then now you have Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle there in addition to Devontae Parker and Preston Williams.
And his really good weeks were only really when like both of them were out.
But at the same time, everyone hates Gesicki. Have you met someone that's like, oh, dude,
he's
Gesicki, I'm going to overpay for him? Like,
he's somehow tight end 10 on Keep Trade Cut. Yeah, like
hey, he finished tight end 7. He broke 150 points. Like, the thing is that okay, he's tight end 10 on there. I don't think you're gonna. If you were trying to sell Mike Gesicki, you could really get anything. I think he's a firm hold for me.
That's fair. I'd still try and sell.
I'd still try to sell.
I'd at least try and pivot to a similar. Like if I could get a little like Jonnu plus a little bit for Gesicki, I'd do that because they're gonna finish. Yeah, they're gonna finish like the same. I think at least that's what I predict.
Yeah, because they're both in the wasteland.
Yeah, they're both in the wasteland. So
they're at the upper tier of the wasteland. They're like the waste lords.
The waste lords.
Exactly. Moving on
chump
to
lords.
Our last segment because we're running out of time. The chumpers. We got the AFC East team most likely to overperform. Frank and I are on the same side here with the Patriots. I mean, Frank just said it. Like Hunter Henry was the only one who's even priced as an above average player at the position.
That is absurd.
It's hard for me to think that this team is going to, perform worse than that in every single category. Well, I guess we'll go with Jake, who says the Dolphins. Jake, you could debate Frank and Lounis because they say the exact opposite. You say that the Dolphins are most likely to overperform their projections, while Frank and Lounis say they're most likely to underperform.
I think with the Dolphins, the projections are already pretty high. Like,
I disagree. We have Tua QB 16. He's very easily. I think me and JT will both say he's probably going to finish over that, in our opinions. Gaskin and Malcolm, I'm basing the running backs off Malcolm Brown. I think is going to finish way above
Brown will finish ahead.
Way above 76. I think Gaskin probably finishes slightly lower than 28, but not much. And then you go to the receivers, and I think Will Fuller at 45 is just way too low for him. I think he has potential to finish a top 20 wide receiver if he stays healthy. And obviously, I think Jalen Waddle, I have him as the number 2 receiver in this draft, behind obviously Jamar Chase. So I think there's a lot. Even Devontae Parker at 62. Like, you're telling me Devontae Parker is what, a receiver 5? I just don't see that. I don't know.
Dude, that was peak Jake energy. Can we get a buy all Dolphins instead of a sell all Ravens?
No. No.
I'm just saying. Sell all Ravens and buy all Dolphins.
Come on, give us one.
I never said it, but I do like the value of all these Dolphins players.
If you're watching us on YouTube, go quickly hit the follow button on Twitch. If we ever make it big on Twitch, I think we'll have Jake emotes for that kind of stuff.
Buy all Dolphins. I'll do it for you.
No. See, that's just not it. That ain't it, Chief.
He's not playing with it. No, it's fair. I just think that I don't know, some of those rankings. Well, I guess the main difference is you're higher on Tua than I am, because you think Tua is going to be what, like a lower end QB1? You think he's going to be like QB 11, QB 12 range?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's probably
Lounis. This is all my argument is. How'd the multiple offensive coordinators work out for the Eagles last year? The offensive consultants, I think they called it.
It was a passing game consultant and a running game consultant.
Yeah, dude. Co-offensive coordinators, I'll see you later. I am not buying a single Dolphin.
All right.
Other than Will Fuller.
My pick was the Jets.
Yeah, Jets.
I think the Jets
Jake and I are
pretty,
opposite you.
I think Zach Wilson's ranking is fine. I don't think he's going to exceed it. I think Michael Carter will prove some people wrong, specifically you two. I know me and Frank are on the pro Carter side.
I'm on the pro Carter. I just said at running back 26. That's too high. That's all I said. I like Carter.
He's not a Dolphin, all right?
He's not a Dolphin.
He's more of a Raven than a Dolphin, apparently. See ya, Jake.
He has Raven energy. And then I think the receivers will be ahead. I think Elijah. What was Elijah Moore's at?
29.
I think Elijah Moore.
Dude, he's going crazy right now.
Yeah, that's.
I
don't like his rising.
I think he'll probably be in the early 20s after this year in terms of dynasty ranking. Not what I think his season production is going to be like in terms of dynasty ranking heading into next year. And then Corey Davis is going to blow 52 out of the water. That's a ridiculous ranking.
Corey Davis is like the only one I'll agree with you on. I just think Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, all of the running backs are just players that their price I'm not touching, and that's why they're my team most likely to underperform, which Jake agrees with as well. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's episode 42 in the books. AFC East down. I don't know what team we'll get to next week. We're going to start making our big boards. Like, we're going to reveal them to you guys. But, yeah, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching us on Twitch, hit us with the follows.
No, never said it. Never said that one. Definitely didn't say that one.
Shout out to Brian for reaching out. We appreciate it.
And shout out Reese.
Shout out Reese. Love you, Brian. Thank you, everyone, for listening. See you next time.
See you guys.